Hi everyone and welcome to French Watch Collector. Today on the bench, as we can see, we have a broken Rolex. Actually it's working, you will see, but there is a lot of issue in this watch. And this Rolex was serviced by Rolex Center. So it's very interesting, you will see when I fix this watch. Actually, so subscribers have sent me this watch, and he had a couple of issues on his watch. The first one being like normally you have a hack. You have a hack obviously on this type of caliber. You will see what's the caliber inside a bit later on. And a hack normally you will have the second when you pull on a crown, the second should stop. And this one we see now we have a quick set date that's working. Obviously you see the second which is beating, so it's working. The watch is working as well, but the hack doesn't work all the time. Sometimes when you pull on the crown, normally the second, when you go to your date and more for the time changing, when you go to the second position, to the last position, normally the second should stop. And you see on this watch, sometimes the second doesn't stop. So there is a hack issue on this watch. And you will see when I'm pulling now, yeah, you see this time it's working. Like you see now, the hour can change and the second stop. But sometimes when you're on a last position, the second carry on moving. So yeah, that's not normal. And this issue was bothering my owner actually. And this is not normal on a Rolex. Like normally you should have a hack which is fully functioning on this Rolex. And you will see when we disassemble this watch, we'll find some issues actually on his watch inside. And again, like I said at the beginning, this watch was serviced by Rolex. So yeah, this will be very interesting to see how it's done by a Rolex Center and what are the issues inside. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do on this beautiful watch. So now I just check, like you see, like quite a few times actually, and you see like this is stop completely. Like this is not normal. You see, like I was not supposed to stop. So yes, there is something maybe with friction inside which is not correct. You see the date change, yeah, midnight, which is perfect actually on his watch. Yes, there is some issue inside. And yeah, this is always a test that I do when I service a watch. I don't know why they did not test it at the end. But yes, there is, it's not perfect on his watch. And when you have a Rolex, obviously, you want to have the perfect result at the end. You don't want to have a watch which is working halfway, let's say. We see the reference number there, the 16613, and you see the watch as well, which is working quite okay as well. The amplitude is good. The bit error is not perfect, but 0.3, I think you can get it a bit better when you adjust it, but it's not bad actually on a timekeeping. We see at the end if we can get something a bit better on a time grapher. So what we're gonna do first, we're gonna remove the case back. You see, just gonna open it with my custom tool from Orotech. Beautiful tool, very useful as well because I'm using, you see, like this special tools which are made especially to open the Rolex case back. Okay, so let's see what we have inside. We have a beautiful, you see, we see the case back, which is, wow, look at the scratch on a case back. How is it possible to make some scratches like that in a case back? I don't know if this came back from the last service. I don't know, maybe it was from previous service. I know that the last service was done by a Rolex Center, like I said. And look at the play there on the rotor. That's way too much. So we will address this issue because you see when you have too much play there on an automatic winding system, now it's okay, it's not touching the part, but at one point it will start to touch the case back or the caliber, and this is very bad. So yeah, we need, you see that's way too much play there. We will address that. And like I said, this watch, obviously you saw it's quite an old watch. So obviously in his life he had a couple of service. Obviously this is not the first or the second service that I'm doing right now. I know the last one, it was from Rolex. Before that, we don't know the history of this watch. And the owner did not tell me what was the history on all the service from this watch. But yeah, we saw like that was very bad, the scratches inside the case. I don't know. And you will see like, wow, look, I see a huge scratch on one of the screw there, right here. Look at the scratch. I don't know how it's possible to do a scratch like that. It looks like the guy went with a hammer or something on a watch he just cut the caliber on his watch. I don't know how it's possible, even with a screwdriver, or if possible to do such a very deep scratch on his watch. So yeah, that's very bad on his caliber. Obviously, like the owner don't see the caliber because you don't have a see-through case back on his watch. But yeah, you don't want to do that when you do a service on a watch, whatever, if it's a Rolex or any kind of watch. You don't want to do scratches like that on your caliber when you service your watch. And you see the caliber, the dial, the dial is in perfect condition. And I love this dial from Rolex. Beautiful dial. You see, I put them right now on one of my new tools, which is a holder for the caliber, which is exactly the same type of holder which is used by Rolex when they service the watches. Just gonna realign a hand there, just to make sure we align all the hands together. Like that, it's easier to remove the hand. You see, we're gonna protect the dial, and with a pair of leather there, we're just gonna remove the hand. There we go. I'm just gonna put the hand you see there in this little box, just to make sure they are nice and safe inside this box. And now we can remove, you see, the screw release the dial fit screw there. Perfect. Just using, you see, my plastic tool there, just to make sure I don't damage anything while I'm lifting up the dial. It's a beautiful dial. And the dial, like I said, always on a Rolex, they are even more beautiful when they are outside of the case without a crystal on top of it. They are fantastic dial. Just put them, you see, in this special dial box there, just to make sure the dial is nice and center, doesn't move. And now, first issue, look at this screw there. This is supposed to be closed, and this is fully open. So we have the date disc there. It should be maintained by this screw. You see, now I put it in a normal position, which is like this, which should retain, you see, the disc there. And actually, when they service this watch, they forgot to put this screw in position. So basically, the date disc there was moving up and down, which is not normal at all. And I was very surprised, because I was thinking it would be an issue, with the hacking issue. But now I found an issue there just straight away on a date disc. So I say, oh my God, what I'm going to find on this caliber when I disassemble it. And again, like I said, this is coming from a Rolex center. People which are making service all day only on Rolex. Obviously, it's a Rolex center, so they just make Rolex caliber. So obviously, you have different type of caliber from Rolex. But when you are working on a Rolex, obviously you will have like maybe 5 to 10 maximum different type of caliber that you are going to work on. You know it by heart, and you know that you need to put this screw back on position. And you see, now I'm just testing, you see, the hacking system, and I see like, yes, the hand is very hard. Like, it doesn't go in position, it doesn't jump in position fully on a last position. So yes, there is some friction. Look like it's missing some grease. It looks very dry. So we're gonna see if we can resolve this issue when we do the full service. Obviously, I don't know what's the issue, so I'm gonna disassemble everything. It's like I'm gonna do a brand new service on this watch, because you see, like, there is already some issues on this watch. So I just want to do it perfectly again. So I'm just gonna remove, like, if it's I'm just gonna remove every single part, like if it's a brand new service on this watch. Just checking each part one by one. You know, now I'm disassembling. You see there the date, the date function on this watch. And you will see that now I'm just gonna do a quick mistake. And on this date, you see there you have a ruby there under this up, and you see there it's just jumped. And you see I managed to, it didn't go very far, and I was very lucky to find a part with the ruby there. So I did not miss anything, so that's a very good news. Just remove the part, you see there the wheel just to change the date. I just remove the last couple of parts here. And you see already there the quick save date and the change of time is moving a bit better here. So it looked like it was some issue with the grease or with the parts, with some friction on the parts. Okay, so now we're just gonna move to the balance side. You see I'm just putting on the other side of my new tool there. Just gonna put it back. And I'm just gonna disassemble next. And you see right to this screw that was with the part that was very damaged with, I guess, with a screwdriver. Yeah, that's, again, I cannot understand how it's possible to have this damage on this caliber. Just gonna remove, you see there, the automatic winding system. I'm just gonna remove, you see, the power out of the, I'm removing the click there out of the way. I'm just gonna unwind, you see, the watch very slowly, holding the crown between my fingers. And we should see the caliber coming to a stop. Just gonna remove, you see, this beautiful bridge there on a balance wheel there. You see caliber 3135 on this watch there. I will explain you a bit about the calibers, the Rolex caliber, what's the difference, in on this type of caliber a bit later on. And I found it very clever what they did actually with on Rolex. Just gonna check, you see the handshake there on all the parts, starting by the pallet fork there, that just checking, if there is not too much play. What's called the end play is a play that you go from top to bottom between the two jewels there. Just checking that you need a bit of play because you need the parts to move freely, but you don't need too much play, because if you have too much play, for example, if you go from top to bottom, if you go too far, the parts can touch to each other, and obviously will reduce the friction if the parts are touching, and that will reduce the amplitude of the watch and will ruin the accuracy of the watch. So that's what you want to have a tiny bit of handshake, tiny bit of play, but not too much. And that's what I'm checking right now, just to make sure that between all, you see the train of wheel there, all the wheels, there is enough play, but not too much. And if there is, we can adjust that. But on his watch, that was perfect. So that's always a good news. Just removing this small bridge there, where we have the crown wheel underneath. This is very special to the 3135 caliber there. This kind of small bridge there, and you will see underneath here, you have another wheel that will disassemble later on. This is the hack. So that was the part I was talking to you, that when you put on a crown, it will come and hit the balance wheel, and it will stop the balance wheel for moving. So it will stop the watch. And that's this part which is doing the job. When you put on a crown, it will stop the balance and it will stop the watch from running. That's what's called the hack there. And that was the part we had the function of the watch. The owner told me that it was not working perfectly, and that's true, it was not working perfectly. So we see if we can resolve this issue later on. I'm just, now disassembling the rest around the bar assembly. So removing, you see there, the ratchet wheel on top, this beautiful piece there, gold color, with a kind of a sunburst effect on top of the part. as always, what I say, I mean, to be fair, I'm not like a specialist of Rolex. I'm not like a Rolex guru or a Rolex lover. I like Rolex. Obviously, I found like today there is too much hype around Rolex and the price around Rolex, but actually the Rolex watch are I found very good watch in terms of quality, even in terms of finish. Like it's not bad. Obviously, it's not like the finish that you would find on a Gégère Lecoutre or even on a Patek Philippe or Audemars Piguet. Yeah, it's not the same type of level of finish, but I find them quite nice caliber. Obviously, 95% of the people cannot see the caliber from their Rolex because there is no case back with a see-through case back on a Rolex, but I found them beautiful. I mean, they're not that bad in terms of finish, but again, in terms of quality, in terms of solidity, like of the caliber, to me, they are known to like it's the best, one of the best level you can get in terms of quality from a Rolex. So yeah, and again, the history, and it's not only like this one is not a brand new Rolex, but it's not a very old Rolex, but it's something that you can find even in older caliber, straight away. Like it is like a very good quality, and a very solid caliber, if you want, that they have inside. And yes, the history of Rolex is coming from there. Actually, they are really tool watch. I think they will be more robust than probably 95% of other watches. That's true. You can see it when you work on a watch. And yeah, that's where Rolex is coming from, I guess, today. Yeah, it's the solidity and the history around their watch. Yeah, it's coming from there. Okay, I managed to remove, you see, the train of wheel, and now we have this Morse bridge here. We have the minute wheel underneath, like this minute pinion there. Taking out. And now I'm just moving again to the dial side. We're just going to remove the keyless work here. Just going to remove this bridge here. There we go. And underneath, look at the fiber that there is. This is even not a fiber, like it's a massive fiber. I know, like when you work like on a watch, if people work on watch, like obviously sometimes you will have some very small dust that you will see under a microscope. There you are, but like this one was very big, so you see it straight away, even with like even with a low resolution that you use on a like you will see it straight away. This type of so I don't know. It's possible that they leave it on a caliber, and this was just underneath all the system basically for the change of date, the quick set date and the change of time. So yeah, I don't know if these fibers that was creating some friction on a mechanism. It's possible. We'll see at the end when we put it back together, when we put it with right amount of lubrication, if it's working again. But yeah, that was maybe one of the reasons as well. We'll see. But yeah, again, I obviously when you work, you try to work in a clean environment. And yeah, that was, I don't know, it's possible to leave such a big fiber inside the caliber. Yeah, that's not good. Coming from a Rolex center is strange, because probably work obviously in an environment where they reduce a maximum of fiber, and this one you could see it straight away. Like obviously you can have some smaller one, but this one was very big. So yeah, that's very strange. Just removing, you see the jewels there from the balance assembly, and this one, the previous one for us from the escape wheel there. That's the one from the balance assembly. I'm just taking out just to make sure we're gonna clean them when you put them in a cleaning machine. Just putting back always the balance assembly. When we put it during cleaning, it's always a safe place to keep it on a bridge here, just to make sure we don't damage the hairspring inside. Just gonna remove, you see there, the last ruby from the balance assembly. There we go. Just gonna disassemble as well before we clean everything as well. The barrel assembly there. Just gonna clean, and we see it was a very nice amplitude on his watch. So the mainspring inside, I know is from he has good value. So I know I know the mainspring inside is working perfectly. So we're gonna clean it, and we're gonna reuse this mainspring there. We see we put it back together on a barrel after the cleaning. And you see there start to be quite a lot of parts as well on a bench. Obviously, the parts is quite a complicated caliber because it's automatic. You have a quick set date, you have dates, you have a hack on it. So you have quite a lot of parts on his watch for 3 hands watch with date and being automatic. Just disassembling right now, you see the crown wheel which is underneath a bridge. And now I will finish to disassemble the automatic winding. You see, very iconic from Rolex with this red wheels there, the reversing wheel from the automatic winding system. And you see again everything with jewels on these calibers. Lot of jewels on a Rolex, and that's why they are so robust. See, removing all the parts I'm gonna put in a cleaning machine a bit later on. And now what I'm doing, I'm putting all the parts back in this basket. You see, starting with the small one here, putting it in the tiny parts in these tiny baskets. And after, we're gonna put all the other parts in bigger baskets. And we put all of that inside the cleaning machine, and that's why I keep all the parts as well by type, by family. If you want, it would be easier when we put it back together to keep the parts together, just to make sure we don't mix the screws or the spark. It's just easier to find the parts together. So now we start the cleaning. So we start by putting the parts in cleaning solution. Then we will do 2 rinsing, and we will finish by a drying. Just to tell you as well that I have a Patreon page. So this to help my channel as well. You can click in the description of this video. You will have a link for my Patreon page. I would like to thank my existing Patreon, which are already subscribed to my Patreon. You can go on my Patreon. You will see obviously my video free of charge as well, free of commercial. There is no commercial on this on Patreon. You will have as well you will support as well my channel, because it takes a lot of time and effort to do this video. And as well for my Patreon, you will get some goodies, for example like stickers. After 3 months you will get a stickers from my channel on my Patreon. So if you want to go there, like I said, I put a link down below in the description for my Patreon page to help my channel. That will help me a lot. So if you want to subscribe, thanks in advance. Okay, so now that the parts are clean, what we're gonna do next, we're gonna disassemble a bit further the case. I'm just using these tools there from Aurotech just to disassemble the bezel there. Just gonna take the bezel out of the way there, here. Perfect. And just gonna remove, the spring, the different springs that are there and look at the dirt. And that's what I do on a normal service. Obviously, we do a full clean as well of the case and bracelets in a ultrasonic machine. Obviously, I saw with the owner, we did not do any. We're not gonna do any polishing on his watch. Just wanted to keep it as in a original state, which is a very good point. And I'm just gonna remove as well. You see all the O-rings there on this watch, because as well we're gonna remove and we're gonna put brand new O-rings on his watch as part of the service as well. And we're gonna do as well a leak test on the watch just to make sure the watch is watertight at the end. So here we go. I'm just removing, you see, and all of that will go inside my ultrasonic machine. Here you go. I'm using my Elma ultrasonic machine. Just gonna put the parts there for 10 to 15 minutes. Just to clean them in this special solution as well. Just gonna clean the bracelet, all the parts from the case, and they will come out perfect without any impurity on the parts. Okay, so you see now the parts are right in order after cleaning in this box. Again, I keep them by family, and I'm just gonna start by reassembling the barrel assembly. And you know, like I said, the mainspring and the amplitude on the watch was quite good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna reuse the mainspring there. So what I'm gonna do, you will see, I'm gonna use a special tool there from Bergeon that I'm gonna use to rewind the mainspring. But first, we're gonna put some grease there. Being an automatic watch, just gonna put some grease there on the wall. Some special automatic grease there. And now I'm just going to use, like I said, this Bergeon tool there, which is with the specific size for this 31-35 caliber to rewind the mainspring there. See, I'm just going to put the spring there on its handle there, and I'm just going to wind the mainspring inside this tool. And basically the mainspring will be in its final position to be inserted inside the barrel again. And you see there, you will have this kind of V shape at the end, being an automatic watch. There we go. And now I'm just gonna remove the handle there. And you will see inside, we'll have a nice mainspring in the correct shape. You see there, fully rewind and ready to go back. And you see now I'm gonna press it back inside the barrel where I just put some grease. There we go, perfect. Just gonna put some grease on the top just to make sure. There we go, we reduce the friction in the barrel assembly there. Just gonna put the barrel harbor right in the center, and I'm just gonna use my Orotech tool there just to make sure I close the barrel here. You see, I'm just gonna put it in and just gonna press it in position. Perfect. Just gonna oil, and you will see me a lot with my automatic oiler, oiling all the pivot points, all the parts which are metal against metal, just again to reduce the friction and reduce the wear between the parts. We're gonna do a epilem treatment. You see as well with Rolex, we do epilem treatment on automatic reversing wheel. Just do that as well. You see on the jewels there. Just gonna put them in this bottle, and I'm just gonna turn it around just to make sure the parts will be submerged in this solution there. Just gonna leave it for 15 seconds roughly until like the parts will be fully coated with epilem on it. Just drain the parts. I'm just gonna remove as well the epilem on a pivot point like every time on a pallet fork and an escape wheel. That's what I'm doing right now. And after that, the parts will be ready to oil. You see the ruby there from the balance assembly. So you see, I didn't put a drop of oil there because actually I'm going to use my automatic oiler. And you will see with the automatic oiler, I'm just going to put a drop of oil right in the center. You see there, just going to put that goes through the ruby there and right on a chaton at the bottom. and you will see there, you will start to see the drop growing inside. And just gonna oil it with some tweezers there. Perfect. You see the growing and growing until it's the correct size. And I'm just gonna put it inside. And like that, we have the pivot point there from which is a balance staff there on a balance assembly, which is right in this drop of oil. Yes, with lubricated with some 9010. Perfect. So you see, just putting the shock setting back in position. Just gonna do the same thing as well. This is the jewels that go for the escape wheel. So you see now, I'm just putting the spring in position as well. It's very fiddly, so you need to be very careful with this spring there. Perfect. Just checking now if the balance is beating, no friction. If the air spring as well is perfectly flat. That's what I always want to check before I carry on with the rest of the reassembly. And you see, I'm just going to put a drop of oil there as well on the jewels that I just put back for the escape wheel. Just do the same thing as well on this side of the bridge. You go very slowly, go in position until I'm put, the spring in position. That's it. Now it's in position, it's fully flat. And now I can close, there we go. The spring in position. Okay, just gonna oil this one as well, like we did on the other one. And after that, we can carry on with the rest of the reassembly. We're starting by, you remember it was this wheel just underneath the bridge. So before we put the bridge, obviously, we need to put this wheel, or else we will forget to put this wheel in position. And after that, we can carry on with the rest of the assembly with the train of wheel, the barrel assembly. We're going to put back all the parts from this caliber. Just to tell you as well, on this caliber, we saw it's a 3135 that I'm working on right now. And like I said, I already find very clever what Rolex did with this caliber. Actually, if you look on Rolex, there is not that many calibers in Rolex. For example, if you look Omega, or even more, if you look at Jaeger, look at the list of the Jaeger calibers that you have. If you go on a website, for example, you will have maybe 10 page of Jaeger calibers. They made a lot of calibers, different type of calibers. Same with Omega, they made a lot of Omega calibers. Obviously, Rolex is maybe a bit younger, let's say, than these two brands, but it's still an old brand as well, from the beginning of 1900. But they made a lot less calibers than these brands. Obviously, they made less complications. That's true. But as well, for them, let's say, standard watch, which is a 3-hand watch, calendar watch being automatic. Yeah. For example, if you just take, for example, the Omega, you will have a lot of, or even a Jaeger, you will have a lot of different caliber which are only 3-hand automatic or 3-hand automatic with calendar. Rolex, they did not do a lot of calibers. And what they did actually, their caliber, for example, today, is still the same today. If you, or for example, at the same era than the 3135, if you take a Datejust, a Submariner, or if you take, for example, a GMT Master 2 or a Rolex Explorer, it's exactly the same caliber inside. For example, a Datejust and a Submariner, it will still be the 3135 inside. It's not a different caliber for the Datejust. And I found that very clever because obviously they reduce the amount of the number of calibers that they were producing. So they reduce obviously the different type of machine that they need to use. The change on a machine of setting that they need to use. The quality control is always the same. Basically, if you still do the same caliber, it's always the same. And that's why I found very clever on Rolex, obviously from a economic point of view, because obviously it's cheaper that to have always the time the same type of parts to produce, the same type of caliber to produce. And even if you take, for example, a caliber 3100 would be only the caliber without date. If you take a 3135, which is just with a date, or if you take a 3185, which would be the same thing but with GMT, basically between the 3135 and the 3185, which is a GMT, it would be only a couple of parts to add the GMT, but the rest of the caliber is the same. So 95%, if you have a GMT caliber, 95% of the caliber is the same as the 3135. And I found that very clever from Rolex. And as well, in terms of quality, it's easier to maintain your quality if you make the same parts all the time, the same caliber all the time. This is again very clever from Rolex to do this. And most of the people actually they even don't. That's I found the difference with today. For example, if you see Omega, yes, they still use a lot of the same caliber in a lot of other watch, but before it was not really the case. They were making, like, for example, for smaller watch, for bigger watch, they were making a different type of caliber. Rolex, they still make the same caliber depending on the size of the watch. Caliber is the same. The case is changing and not the caliber is changing. Obviously, for the woman watch, they make some smaller, some other caliber. But like, for example, if you take some watches which are 36 millimeter or 39 millimeter, 44 millimeter or 41 millimeter, it will still be the same caliber. It doesn't change in function of the case size. And this is, I found it very clever from a production point of view, obviously from an economical point of view as well, and especially for a quality point of view as well. It's a lot more controlled if you put that. Okay, so you see now I just finished to remove, to reassemble the keyless work. And you see now I re-greased perfectly the keyless work and with the hack as well. And it looks like there, we see at the end when we test, it looks pretty good when you move. So we see at the end when we put back all the parts together, just to make sure there is no other parts that will create some friction. But it looks good so far. When it looks smooth as well, it looks smoother when I put on a crown. So that's always a good indication when you service a watch as well. The watchmaker as well, you need to feel, you need to hear as well. When obviously on a video there, I cannot, you cannot see or feel. I mean, you can see obviously with the video, but you cannot feel when I pull on the crown or the way it feels, or even sometimes the sound. Obviously, even on a video, it's a different type of sound than what you hear in real. But that's something very important as well when you are a watchmaker to feel on a watch, if you feel the friction, if you feel something which is not right when you pull on something, when you turn something. So yeah, that's always a good indication. Just put there, you see the train of wheel, which looks like it's turning freely. So we're gonna secure it, you see there, with a screw. Perfect. Just putting the last 2 screws there just to make sure it doesn't move anymore. Just put the hack. So that's the part, like I said, that's the part that will come and hit the balance wheel to stop the balance wheel when we pull on the crown. Just put the bridge there that will cover the hack. You know, with the caliber number that we just talked about, the 3135 on this bridge. Just gonna put back, the barrel assemble that we just reassembled, with the mainspring inside. And you see that even on the barrel, you have a jewel, which is not the same, which is not the case in all the caliber. Huh? You don't have always a jewel there on both sides of the barrel assembly. Again, the jewels, like I already explained, they are very, very hard. They are almost as hard as diamond. So it's just to say that the parts will have no wear on these parts, and again, very solid, very robust. So that's why, like I said, on his Rolex, the quality is none to zero. I mean, like it's perfect, like the quality on his caliber, and that's why on his Rolex you see a lot of rubies everywhere. Most of the parts on a change for the date, on automatic winding. A lot of calibers you will not have this ruby, but on a Rolex they put rubies. So yeah, that's always a good sign of quality when you have a lot of rubies. Just putting, you see there, the parts around the barrel assembly. Just put there the ratchet wheel. You will have here a couple of intermediate wheels that come between the crown wheel and the ratchet wheel. And you will see there, I'm just re-oiling everything. All the parts which are metal against metal, or the ruby as well, just to, again, reduce the friction, reduce the wear between the parts. I'm just going to put the pallet fork now. Just need to align, the pivot point of the pallet fork before you press fully. And you will see, just going to align the pivot point there on the jewel. Looks like it went down here. Yeah, perfect. It's aligned. You need to align that before you put the screws, because if it's not aligned perfectly and the pivot point is not in the jewel, when you're going to screw it, you're going to smash it. You're going to smash the pivot point, and that's very bad. So that's why you always need to be careful before you screw it down. You need to make sure everything is aligned in the jewel. Just winding the watch a tiny bit there, just to put some power inside the bar there, and just to check if everything is okay. I'm just gonna oil, you see there with my oiler there, the pivot point there from the train of wheel, from the barrel assembly as well there. Just gonna do the same thing as well on the die side. Again, to reduce the friction there on the watch, because you want to have the minimum amount of friction and the maximum of amplitude on your watch. Just putting the balance wheel in position very slowly, just to make sure to see if you want to start. Yes, perfect. The watch is starting again, so we can secure it. We see as well, we did not finish yet, because now we have a watch which is giving time, but which is not automatic and which doesn't have a date. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to reassemble the complication, starting by the date complication. Now I'm reassembling the parts for the calendar mechanism. So you see, I'm gonna put this jewel here. Should I put it's easier if you put this date wheel here first before I put this part with the jewel. There we go. Managed to put it together. You need to very carefully release the screw there, and you see the ruby is coming against this cam of the date there. And you will see this jewel there on this cam will allow to do the quick set date, the date to change quickly. Which the quick set date is something else, but to have the date changing, like the jump on a date, it will be very sudden. And this ruby, that's what it's doing on this cam. You will see. Just putting the hour wheel there. Now just putting, the wheels for the quick set date. That's to change the date really quickly. Just put it at the right place here. There we go. Now I can put this bridge on top. You see a huge bridge, very solid as well, with again some rubies. We have a lot of rubies as well for the date disc, the date disc that I'm gonna put later on as well, just to make sure like the date disc can turn without the minimum amount of friction. You see we have some nice blue screw there, and you see just gonna change everything, check everything. You see, like, it looks like he went in a last position very quickly. And you see, look at the jump on the date. You see, the arm is moving, up and up and up and up. And tack, he went down. You know, the ruby there against the cam. He went down suddenly, and that will make the date change very quickly. Just gonna oil the jumper there for the date disc. And now I can put the date disc in position. Very slowly align it, you know, behind this part, you know. You have you see like three rings where you need to go underneath. Just need to remove, you see there. There we go. Now it's in position. Obviously, this time we are not going to forget to close, you know, this screw just to make sure that they stay in position. And we're going to check if we can do, now I'm changing the time, and you see we're going to see if the date is jumping very quickly. Look at it coming. Wow, that was very fast there. Just going to do it again. You see, we see the date disc which is turning, the date wheel there. And pop, you see when it come and hit the wheel, the date disc. Now we have the quick set date here, changing very easily. Perfect. Now I'm gonna put the dial back on top, this beautiful dial. Obviously, I didn't do anything on the dial, and on the hands they were quite in good shape. And wonderful dial again on this watch. Very deep black gloss dial with this gold kind of indication on the dial. Just gonna align the hour hand, obviously at midnight. So midnight is when we change the date. So now I just make the date change perfectly at midnight. Just gonna press it in position with my Eurotech tool there. Again, if you want to see in the description, I will put a link for all the tools that I'm using. If you have any question as well on the tools or anything, any question during the video as well, don't hesitate to put in a comment below your question or any stuff on the comments. I will be very happy to answer and try to answer to your question. Just realigning now, you see the minute hand there that need to be perfectly at midnight as well. There we go, just press it in position. Just gonna check now if it's changing at midnight. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Perfect on midnight. Love the result for the date change there. Just gonna put now the second hand, the last hand from this set. Just gonna press it in position. Just gonna check as well if the hands are not touching each other, and that looks good as well. Perfect. And now you see the second is beating again as soon as I remove the hack, the hand, and just gonna check if it's come to the position. Oh yeah, perfect. Straight away when he went to the last position, the second stop. Obviously, I've done that a lot of times just to make sure it was perfect again, and it was perfect again. Okay, so now we're gonna focus on automatic winding, reassembling the automatic winding. We have this 2 reversing wheel, because obviously being reversing wheels means that when we have the rotor that we put later that will wind the automatic winding, Doesn't matter if he turn left to right or right to left. Obviously, we'll send the information to the barrel assembly in a winding position. So it doesn't matter in which direction the rotor is turning. It will always submit the winding in one direction, which is the correct direction to wind the watch. So this is a very clever system. Now it's in position, so we're gonna secure everything you see there with the screws. Obviously, like we have done, we're gonna oil all the jewel again, just to make sure we reduce the friction as well and the wear on this part of the caliber. Perfect. Now I'm just gonna, remember it was at the beginning, it was way too much play on the rotor of the balance assembly. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna remove the axle of this rotor. So I'm gonna use my stacking set there first to remove the old axle there. Just gonna punch it out. There we go. And after that, I'm just gonna use a brand new axle and a special tool as well to rivet the axle there on the rotor. So you see, I'm putting a brand new one here, brand new rotor here, brand new axle, and I'm just gonna put, you see this tool there. I'm gonna hit very hard on it just to make sure we crimp this axle in position and it doesn't move anymore. Next, we're gonna change, like I said, I removed all the O-rings on the watch, and you see on this watch you'll have a lot of different O-rings. So we're gonna put them, first grease them to make sure they're even more efficient with some grease, and we're gonna put them back in position. Obviously, we see there will be a lot of O-rings. First, one that go on a tube on the outside of the tube, two that go inside. That's the first one. And we have the second one there that go as well inside. And one that will go later on the crown. And the last one that go obviously for the case back. Because basically on a watch you will have 2 points where you can the humidity, if you want, can enter. You have the crown and you have the case back. So that's why you want to put O-rings as well on all this entry point. And this one being a screw down crown, a triple lock. So it means you will have 3 points obviously on this Rolex. One inside the crown, one on the outside of the tube, and one inside the tube. So to make sure the watch is fully watertight. And what we're going to do now, actually, you see I'm just closing the case back without the caliber inside. And what we're going to do, obviously we're going to check if the case is watertight again. And I'm just going to put it in this tool under pressure, and we're going to release the pressure. And if we don't see any bubble, it means that there is no leak on this case. And basically that the watch is watertight. So you see, we're going to gently release the pressure. Sometimes you can see some very tiny bubble because you will have some hair which are straps, for example, in a holes where we'll have the spring from the bracelet. But if you have a leak, you will see a lot of bubble coming out. And yeah, this is perfect. You see there is no leak actually on this case. So now that we know where there is no leak, we're gonna put back and reassemble, these screws that will keep the caliber back in position inside the case. We're gonna vacuum the dust inside the case. We're gonna blow as well if there is still any dust inside the case and on the dial, just to make sure we don't want to trap any dust between, obviously, the crystal and the dial. Perfect. We're just gonna put it in position there. Perfect. Look at this beauty there. Just gonna turn the caliber, which is always to the way that the Rolex are get tightened inside the case. Just put the crown just to make sure it's aligned. Perfect. Just unscrew to make sure these screws are against the case and the caliber doesn't move. Just wind the watch to make sure it runs again. And we have basically one sub-assembly to do, one complication to put back together, which is automatic winding. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just gonna put, you see, this automatic winding sub-assembly here back on the case, back on a caliber. Just gonna secure it when it's in position, just to make sure it's in a correct position. Just gonna secure it with the screw there. And again, that's the special screw that was where the part was wow, it was like so in two, like it was like it's very bad. Okay, and the last part, which is obviously the rotor that we put with the new axle that I'm greasing. You see there on the jewel. Just gonna oil it as well on the tip there of the axle. Put it together, and after we'll have here a clip that we need to push in position just to make sure the rotor there cannot come out anymore. Just checking if everything is okay, if everything is turning. Yeah, that looks good. Just gonna reassemble now the bezel as well with the screws here, with the spring, sorry. Just put it back in position. And basically this is just to, like, you just need to press it in position with your fingers. You will hear it will snap in position. Perfect. Just gonna close now the case back. Again with my special tool there, just to make sure it's tight again. Just gonna put obviously the bracelet in position. You see there with the Rolex pump there. Spring bar here. There we go. That's the last one in position. Just gonna leave it for a couple of days in the automatic winding, just to make sure that automatic winding first is working, that the watch is working correctly, and as well just for the oil, just to goes everywhere. And now that the watch is done, just want to tell you as well that I have my own website. So I will put a link on the description and as well on the top right corner there from my website. Like for example this owner, if you want to send me your watch for service, you can go there. As well, I have some watch which are for sale, some of the watches that I restored on this channel. And like I said, if you want to send me your watch for service, for repair, for restoration, whatever it is, you can contact me as well on my website, and I will be very happy to work on your watch and to make sure it works perfectly again. And look at the result on the time grapher. The amplitude is perfect, nearly at 300 degrees, and the beat error now is perfectly at 0. So we have a watch which is running again. If you did not subscribe to the channel, first click on the thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel because I will try to put more video online, and I will try to put up one video every 2 weeks. I hope you like this video, and look at this beautiful Rolex on my watch, on my wrist, and it will be Rolex going back to its owner. So I hope you like the video, and I see you next time for the next restoration. Bye bye. Bye.